Imagine walking into a room and instantly understanding what everyone around you is thinking. Their worries, their hopes, their secrets revealed through invisible threads of behavior and expression. The book, Mind Reader. Unlocking the power of your mind to get what you want, opens this world, showing that mind reading isn't a supernatural ability, but a skill built on understanding human nature. It teaches that reading minds begins with sharpening observation. The book explains how people filter their reality to avoid overload, often missing subtle cues that reveal deeper truths. It describes an experiment where volunteers watch a short video, tasked with counting basketball passes. So focused are they that most fail to see a man in a gorilla suit walking across the court. This illustrates how selective attention keeps people from noticing the obvious. Mind reading, the book says, begins by expanding that narrow focus, training the brain to absorb silent signals others ignore. One practical exercise it shares is deceptively simple. Next time you're in a cafe or waiting room, choose a person and observe them for 5 minutes. Notice posture, clothing, gestures, facial micro-movements, what they're holding, how they shift in their seat. Then, create a story about where they might be going, what they might be feeling, or what occupies their mind. Though you won't confirm this story, the exercise strengthens your observational muscles, building an intuition that feels like mind reading over time. The book goes deeper, explaining micro-expressions, fleeting facial movements that reveal true feelings before masks return. When someone talks about a goal, but briefly tightens their eyes or flicks their mouth downward, it often signals insecurity or sadness, despite their spoken enthusiasm. Learning to catch these moments is like hearing whispers in a crowded room. It feels impossible at first, but grows easier with attention and practice. It also shares insights about body language. Crossed arms, for example, don't always mean defensiveness. They can indicate warmth or self-comfort. The key is context. Are they cold? Did they cross their arms while frowning, or were they smiling? Context transforms raw observation into understanding. Another concept introduced is mirroring. When you subtly reflect another's gestures or posture, it builds subconscious rapport, making them feel more open and understood. The book cautions that mirroring must feel natural. Forced or robotic copying can unsettle rather than comfort. Beyond reading people, the book explains suggestion and priming. It reveals how choices can be influenced without direct instruction. If you want someone to pick a specific card, casually mentioning colors or symbols related to it beforehand creates subconscious leanings. For example, in conversations about numbers, repeatedly referencing 3 primes the mind to select it when asked to pick any number between 1 and 10. This is not magic, the book clarifies, but psychology at work. However, these techniques carry ethical weight. Influence can easily become manipulation. The book stresses responsibility, urging readers to use such skills to build trust, protect, or entertain with integrity, never to deceive or harm. It concludes this chapter by revealing the greatest secret of mentalism: confidence. Without confidence, even the most precise observations fail to land. When you speak with certainty, you shape perception. If you say, "You were thinking of 7, weren't you?" With unwavering conviction, people begin to doubt their memory, often accepting your suggestion as their truth. Confidence creates an aura of knowing. The book teaches that this is not deception, but understanding how the mind works. People question their own reality when faced with absolute certainty. As you let these pages settle in your mind, you realize mind reading is not about mystical powers, but the art of seeing what others overlook. It is about listening to micro signals in voice, noticing patterns in behavior, and understanding that every movement, word, and silence carries meaning. These are skills anyone can learn with awareness, patience, and ethical intention. The power of mind reading, as this book reveals, lies not in controlling others, but in understanding them deeply, creating stronger connections, and moving through life with heightened clarity. Let this thought sink in as the journey continues, because each insight builds toward a mind that sees far beyond the surface of everyday life. As the journey through Mind Reader deepens, the book shifts from passive observation to active influence, unveiling how mentalists use suggestion to shape thoughts and decisions. It explains that human choices are rarely as free as we believe. The subconscious mind is constantly absorbing suggestions from language, environment, and subtle cues, guiding decisions long before conscious awareness catches up. The book introduces the concept of priming. Priming occurs when exposure to one stimulus influences a response to another stimulus, often without conscious awareness. For example, if someone mentions the word yellow repeatedly in conversation and later asks you to name a fruit, you're far more likely to say banana than any other fruit. The mind connects and retrieves what it has been recently exposed to. This is a cornerstone of mentalism, gently planting seeds in the mind, then allowing those seeds to bloom into seemingly free choices. To practice this, the book offers an exercise in everyday conversation. Choose a color or object you wish to prime in someone's mind. Weave it subtly into conversation multiple times, describing something you saw earlier, referencing a memory, or making a joke using that word. Later, ask them to name a random object, color, or number. You will find they lean towards what you primed. This exercise isn't about controlling others, but revealing how the subconscious absorbs patterns and turns them into decisions. The book goes further, describing how priming works alongside another principle: anchoring. Anchoring is the brain's tendency to rely heavily on the first piece of information offered when making decisions. For example, if you ask someone whether the tallest tree in the world is taller or shorter than 500 feet, then ask them to guess its actual height, their guess will lean towards 500 feet, even though they have no idea of its true height. That initial number becomes an anchor in their mind. Mentalists use this to shape perceptions and choices. In conversation, suggesting a high number before asking someone to estimate a cost makes them more likely to guess a higher price. The book illustrates this with performance examples, where a mentalist asks an audience member to pick a random card, but has subtly anchored the choice earlier by referencing similar symbols or suits in conversation. It feels like magic to the participant, but to the trained mind, it is psychology and precision. Another chapter expands on cold reading, a skill mentalists use to appear as if they know personal details about strangers. The book clarifies that cold reading is not psychic power. It is the art of general statements combined with sharp observation. For example, saying, "You're a person who often worries about making the right decisions but hides it behind humor," resonates with most people. They project their own experiences onto vague truths, feeling deeply seen. But effective cold reading goes beyond generic lines. It involves noticing rings, watches, tattoos, posture, and micro-expressions to craft insights that feel deeply personal. Someone wearing a worn wedding band while fidgeting with it may be experiencing relationship stress. A tattoo with a date often signals a loss or memorial. The book urges caution with cold reading, reminding readers that ethical use means never exploiting emotional vulnerabilities for manipulation. Instead, it can be used to build trust, connect quickly, and show empathy. Next, it explores hot reading, gathering information about a person beforehand to appear all-knowing. Unlike cold reading, hot reading is not observation but research, such as learning someone's details from social media before meeting them. While powerful in performance, the book emphasizes that for daily life, observation and intuition build truer skills than secret research. In teaching these techniques, the book stresses the power of words. Words are not neutral. They carry emotion, imagery, and suggestion. Saying "you're feeling calm" versus "try to feel calm" impacts the subconscious differently. The first assumes calmness exists, guiding the mind there. The second implies calmness is not present, creating distance. Words spoken with certainty bypass doubt and settle into the subconscious as truths. This principle is at the heart of mental influence. The book encourages practicing certainty with small, harmless statements first, like predicting the next song on a playlist, or confidently saying, "This is going to be a good meeting today." Each success reinforces inner confidence, and each failure becomes a lesson in delivery and timing. One of the most profound lessons shared is the importance of intention. The book warns that reading minds and influencing thoughts is a double-edged sword. Used for ego, deceit, or power over others, it darkens the mind and damages trust. Used to connect, guide, and inspire, it becomes a force for good, creating bonds and understanding that feel almost magical. The author writes that people sense intention, often subconsciously. Influence anchored in genuine care lands softly, while influence anchored in self-interest carries a tension that others feel, even if they can't explain it. As you let these insights settle, the book's teachings begin to feel less like party tricks and more like keys to deeper human connection. Reading minds, it turns out, is not about uncovering secrets, but about listening deeply, listening with eyes, ears, intuition, and intention aligned. The next chapters will take this understanding even further, diving into memory techniques, psychological illusions, and how these tools can be used not just to read minds, but to shape one's own mind towards clarity, confidence, and purpose. Memory, attention, and presence are described as the core pillars of mind reading. Without a strong memory, even the most detailed observations fade quickly, leaving only vague impressions. One of the most effective methods to train memory is the ancient technique of the memory palace. This involves visualizing a familiar place, such as your home, and placing vivid representations of information within it. Imagine an apple balanced on your front door handle, a glowing clock ticking above the hallway mirror, a tree growing through your kitchen tiles, a book floating weightlessly above the dining table, and a bright star pulsing light from your bedroom ceiling. Later, when walking through this visualized place in your mind, each image retrieves the information it holds with clarity. Mentalists use this not just for remembering lists, but for anchoring people's names, details of conversations, and personal facts, giving the impression of supernatural recall. The power lies in making images unusual, exaggerated, and rich with sensory detail, because the mind remembers the strange far more than the ordinary. Presence is just as crucial as memory. Often in conversation, people listen only enough to formulate their reply. Their attention split between words spoken and their own inner chatter. Presence means being fully attuned to the moment, silent inside, listening without judgment or immediate interpretation. One way to develop presence is to sit quietly for 10 minutes each day, focusing on breath and the subtle sounds surrounding you. Allow thoughts to come and go without grasping onto them. Over time, this cultivates a stillness that makes you more sensitive to fleeting expressions, tonal shifts, and gestures that reveal hidden emotions and truths. Attention builds upon presence by directing focus intentionally. It is the ability to choose where awareness goes and hold it there without distraction. Strengthening attention begins with simple exercises. Find an object within reach, a candle flame, a pen, a plant, and study it without letting your focus drift. Notice its colors, textures, shapes, and shadows for 5 minutes. When the mind wanders, gently guide it back. This daily practice refines focus, like sharpening a blade, creating patience and a steady mind capable of tracking subtle cues that others overlook. Together, memory, presence, and attention form the inner framework of mentalism. Strong memory keeps track of past behaviors and conversations. Presence creates openness to what unfolds in real time. Directed attention keeps observation anchored where it matters most. Beyond these skills lies a deeper understanding of human psychology. Beliefs shape perceptions, often without conscious awareness. When someone believes mentalists have supernatural powers, their mind filters every experience to confirm that belief, noticing moments that reinforce it and disregarding contradictions. This tendency is known as confirmation bias. It is a force mentalists use through framing presenting skills as extraordinary to set expectations before any demonstration begins. Framing is not just for the stage. In daily life, framing your presence and words shapes how others see and respond to you. Approaching an interaction with the internal decision to be calm, confident, or warm shifts posture, breathing, and micro-expressions in subtle ways that others subconsciously detect. Practicing this intention setting before meetings or conversations rewires both your internal state and external perception. Reading minds becomes less about decoding expressions or influencing choices, and more about becoming deeply present, remembering with clarity, focusing attention intentionally, and understanding how perception shapes reality. These are the hidden skills that allow someone to feel what others feel, see what others miss, and communicate with a certainty that feels almost magical. They form the quiet power behind every mentalist performance and every deeply connected conversation in daily life. As these ideas settle within, it becomes clear that cultivating these abilities is not about performance alone, but about creating richer understanding and genuine human connection. The journey into psychological illusions, storytelling influence, and the ethics of shaping thoughts continues from this foundation of presence, attention, and memory. revealing even greater layers of potential within the mind.